Let's give our praises to the Most High, whose true name in the ancient Hebrew is Yahweh, in the name of his only begotten Son, whose true name in the ancient Hebrew is Yahweh Shai, and the Holy Spirit, which in the ancient Hebrew is the Rakah Kwadash. Double honors to the elders of GMS who taught us his truth by the Holy Spirit. Honors to the brothers risking their life and freedom to push the gospel. Peace and blessings to the elect, who would be the so-called Negroes, Latinos, Native Americans, who make up the lost 12 tribes of Israel. According to scripture and prophecy, the elect will be 1/3 of the Israelites, who in the last days will return back to Yahweh Bahashim Yahweh Shai to receive salvation, while the 2/3 of Israel who don't seek the Lord in time be destroyed with America. And that's all according to prophecy. We back with another lesson through the mercy of Yahweh Bahashim Yahweh Shai. Lesson's going to be titled Pestilence Update, January 2025, Super Fungus and Super Flu. Again, it's going to be titled January 2025, Pestilence Update, Super Fungus and Super Flu. Because here, there's two outbreaks going on. One of them, it may be both that are worldwide, but they on the rise in America as well. This super fungus and this super flu, which we gonna cover both of them. But in my opinion, I think that super flu is a scam. I think it's fake, and you'll see why once we get there. But I think that's fake, kind of like the pandemic with the COVID-19. You know, that was a scam. It was fake. You know, it wasn't as bad as they made it out to be. But this is all, perfect timing, according to prophecy. But we're going to start here, Matthew 24:3. As he sat upon the Mount of Olives, the disciples came unto him privately, saying, Tell us, when shall these things be? What shall be the sign of thy coming and of the end of the world? So asking Yahweh Shai, what can we look for? And then when we jump down here to verse 6, a Christian can quote this, but we're going to get it. You should hear of wars and rumors of wars. We see that happening. See that ye be not troubled, for all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet. What we about to get next, a Christian can quote that too. The problem is they usually skip over a piece of it. They usually skip a piece of it. For nation shall rise against nation, kingdom against kingdom. A Christian can quote that. It says, there shall be famines and pestilences and earthquakes in diverse places. So this last part, earthquakes in diverse places, a Christian can be seen quoting that. But what's the part that always gets skipped over? Famines and pestilences. And I like to call them the silent killers. Silent meaning you don't see it coming. Nation against nation, earthquakes, wars and rumors of wars. You can see the buildup. You can see it happening. You can see it taking shape in the earth. But the famine and the pestilence is something that's overlooked, and nobody pay attention to it until it happens. Nobody paid the COVID-19 until the lockdown started happening, the quarantine started happening. And that's why I call them the silent killers. The famine and the pestilence, again, is overlooked until it's in your face. But even according to prophecy, Yahweh Shah spoke on these things, that it would be diseases, viruses, funguses, outbreaks, of all kinds of illnesses and sicknesses here in the last days. And that's why I say it's right on time according to prophecy. So we're going to start with this super fungus. And you see the title, Superbug Fungus, Candida auris. Symptoms spread and why it's so deadly in 2026. I'm going to try not to stop it too much, but I will make a few points here and there. But let's start with this one.
In the year 2009, in a Japanese hospital, doctors isolated a yeast from a patient's ear. They called it Candida auris. It was a curiosity. Today, in early 2026, that curiosity has become a ghost haunting every intensive care unit in America.
All right, so red flag right there. Pretty much told you that they found it or discovered it in somebody's ear. First of all, why you snooping and looking inside people's ears for super funguses? And it wasn't a problem in America until they found it in somebody's ear. So they found it in somebody's ear in 2009. Now 17 years later, 2026, it's a problem in America. What it tells me is that they found this super fungus or whatever in somebody's ear and they took it out, they tampered with it, they did tests on it. You know, they played with it in the lab, probably see how it would grow, how it would affect, you know, maybe animals, people. They released it to see how it would, you know, interact with the world. They maybe play with it to see if they can create some kind of new drugs or new chemicals from it. But from what it tells me, that it's a problem in America now because they tamper with it. That's what I get from it.
It lives on
That's why he the damn devil.
bed rails for a month. It laughs at our strongest antifungal drugs, and in patients it invades, it kills up to 60% of the time.
So yeah, most antifungal drugs doesn't kill the fungus. That's why they call it a super fungus. And according to them, they say it can kill 60% of the time. They can only know this by playing with it in a laboratory setting, or even maybe releasing it to the public in other parts of the earth that we don't know about.
The CDC calls it an urgent threat. As of this moment, over 7,000 people have been clinically infected across at least 27 states. But here is the most terrifying fact of all. We may have created this monster ourselves.
That's the devil telling on himself. We may have created this monster ourselves. We may have. That's what the devil do. We may have done this. We may have done that. Could it be this? Maybe that. So, as I stated from the beginning, they found it in somebody's ear. Now it's a problem in America. What it tells me is that they found it and tampered with it, or they created it themselves. Which they said it right here. We may have created this monster ourselves. Did you create it or did you not create it?
Its rise is not just a medical failure. It's a mirror held up to our misuse of drugs, our hospital practices, and our changing planet. This is the story of Candida auris. This is not just a superbug. This is a biological bill coming due. Welcome to Health Inside, Anatomy and Science. Today, we are conducting a full-scale forensic investigation into one of the most dangerous pathogens of the 21st century. We will expose its unique biology, the superbug blueprint, deconstructing C. auris's biological arsenal. Let's meet the adversary. Candida auris is a fungus, a relative of the common yeast that causes thrush, but evolution has weaponized it for the modern hospital. Its power comes from a deadly combination of traits: multi-drug resistance, the untreatable core. Standard antifungals attack the fungus in three ways: the cell wall, echinocandins; the cell membrane, azoles and polyenes. C. auris has evolved defenses against all three, often simultaneously. Molecular efflux pumps, specialized proteins that act like bilge pumps, actively ejecting azole drugs from inside the fungal cell before they can work. Genetic mutations, Changes in the target sites of echinocandins and azoles mean the drugs simply can't lock on to disrupt the fungus's machinery. This resistance isn't random luck. Many experts point to the widespread prophylactic use of azole fungicides in agriculture as a training ground, pressuring environmental fungi like C. auris to develop resistance long before they ever entered a human hospital. Environmental persistence, the silent contaminant. Most microbes die quickly on dry surfaces. C. auris forms robust biofilms, sticky, slimy fortresses of cells on plastic, steel, and fabric. These biofilms are chemically shielded, allowing it to survive for weeks on hospital curtains, bed rails, and equipment, resisting routine cleaning with alcohol-based gels and even some disinfectants. Stealth and misidentification, the diagnostic blackout. In the lab, C. auris can be misidentified as its harmless cousin, Candida haemolyonii. This critical error leads to patients receiving the wrong, ineffective treatment for days or weeks, during which the infection spreads and the patient deteriorates. Accurate identification requires advanced, often slower techniques like MALDI-TOF mass spectrometry or genomic sequencing. Part 2, the invasion pathway. How a harmless yeast becomes a killer. C. auris is not an aggressive pathogen for healthy people. It is an opportunistic assassin. Its primary targets are the medically fragile, patients in ICUs, those with compromised immune systems from cancer or
So I want to deal with that. They say this is an opportunistic kind of sickness that it caused. Said people with compromised immune systems. And we know from the hokey pokey back in 2021, everybody they got the hokey pokey and they got them boosters, that their immune systems are destroyed. And what proves it is the explosion of new HIV cases in America. Yes, stuff is being spread sexually, but that don't account for the rapid explosion in HIV cases, and at the same time, the increase in turbo cancers, all a result from the hokey pokey back in 2021. All that stuff already been confirmed. So how ironic they come with a fake pandemic, the COVID-19, then they get the hokey pokey. Now all of a sudden, you got a super fungus that they claim they found in somebody's ear. And the primary target are those with weakened immune systems, which again, everybody's immune system was weakened from the hokey pokey and all them boosters. Can't be a coincidence. And then not to mention, the stuff can survive on surfaces for weeks at a time. That different infectants, alcohol-based cleaners don't even kill it. And it's mainly found in the hospital setting. The stuff just lines up too perfect. It got Esau's fingerprints all over it. But let's continue.
Or transplants, and people with invasive lines, compromised immune systems from cancer or transplants, and people with invasive lines like central venous catheters or breathing tubes. Colonization, the silent first step. A patient can have C. auris living harmlessly on their skin or in their groin. This is called colonization. They feel fine, but they become a mobile reservoir, shedding the fungus onto every surface they touch, seeding the environment. Infection, crossing the line. The breach often happens via a medical device. The fungus, thriving in a biofilm on a catheter, gets pushed directly into the bloodstream. This causes candidemia, a fungal bloodstream infection. Symptoms, the vague, deadly clue. There is no unique rash. The primary symptom is a persistent spiking fever and chills that do not respond to antibiotics. By the time blood cultures grow the yeast and...
So that's what I wanted to get. A crazy fever that don't respond to antibiotics. So crazy fever and chills that don't respond to antibiotics. You got that, it's a chance you might be sick from the super fungus. But we gonna get this next video on the super fungus, showing that it's making the news here throughout America.
A dangerous, drug-resistant, and often deadly fungus is spreading across hospitals and nursing homes nationwide and right here in the tri-state area. As Nick Calloway explains, public health officials are worried about rising cases.
A little-known fungus is becoming a growing public health concern. Candida auris is drug-resistant, hard to detect, and spreading fast. According to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, there were more than 7,000 reported cases across the U.S. last year, a sharp increase from just a few years ago. Those cases are now reported in more than half the states in the U.S., including New York and New Jersey.
When you have a colonizer that can colonize the skin and can also persist for long periods of time on, for example, bed rails, on catheters, you have a situation where you have extensive transmission.
Dr. David Perlin is the Chief Scientific Officer at the Center for Discovery and Innovation at Hackensack Meridian Health. He said the deadly infection is spreading mostly in hospitals and nursing homes. Patients with a severe underlying illness are most vulnerable. Hackensack Meridian Health published a medical review last month that warns the fungus is becoming more resistant to antifungal drugs.
And sometimes we get drug-resistant forms where there are no more antifungal drugs that are available to treat it, and that's why it's being called, quote, a superbug.
Researchers say outdated diagnostics often misidentify the
Man, excuse me, if there's anything that's resistant to medicine or resistant to antibiotics, it's because it was engineered by Esau Edom the devil. But now we're going to cover the super flu, and I believe it's fake. But you see the title, Nation Faces Worst Flu Season in 2025 Years. And that's the thing. Every year, the flu season is always worse. You know, it's part of a marketing strategy to get people to get the flu shot. But check this out. Tell me how phony and fake this look.
He has a supersized case of the super flu.
It's been a rough winter season.
Nat Lyons says he's been sick for almost 2 months, and there's no end in sight.
I've had a couple windows where I feel okay, and then another wave of sickness comes on.
That nigga ain't sick. You can tell by his eyes. Look how white his eyes is. Nigga ain't sick.
Comes on.
The entire nation is in the grip of the worst flu season in 25 years.
My husband, my daughter, but colleagues, friends. I don't remember a time where everybody you ask, somebody has the flu right now.
I know a lot of people who have been sick a lot.
Yeah.
11 million cases, 120,000 hospitalizations.
Man, just everybody's reaction and everybody's response, it just seemed rehearsed. So like I say, I believe this super flu nonsense is fake, but who really knows?
11 million cases, 120,000 hospitalizations, 5,000 deaths.
I don't wish this on nobody. I've never been this sick, ever.
The worst part about it was every time we would think we were getting better, someone would get worse.
And doctors are reporting that some patients are experiencing symptoms that are a little weird. Dr. Frederick Davis is an emergency room physician at Long Island Jewish Medical Center.
The particular one.
That's all I needed to hear. Jewish Medical Center. We know everybody lying now. I didn't hear that at first. I kind of just skimmed through it. But now we know everybody lying. But we're going to show that the super flu is even making the news throughout America.
This afternoon involving the flu. The U.S. Department of Health and Human Services just a short time ago taking the unprecedented step of dropping the number of vaccines it recommends for children, including flu shots.
Now, that announcement comes as the CDC confirmed a new death of an unvaccinated child who died from the flu. The super flu outbreak is hitting hard here in Louisiana and in other parts of the country. News 15's Garrett Tenney with a closer look at the impact across America.
Influenza infections across the nation spiked over the holidays in a flu season that the CDC is classifying as moderately severe.
Man, this shit
The agency
fake.
estimates that there have been at least 11 million illnesses, 120,000 hospitalizations, and 5,000 deaths. 9 flu-related pediatric deaths have also been reported so far this season.
There are no normal years. When it arrives with a bang and people get sick.
Some of that unpredictability in the current season comes from a new flu variant dubbed as the super flu.
Man, that's pretty much up. I guess, come on.
Symptoms can include high fever, body aches, extreme fatigue, and more.
So the same symptoms as all the other flu variants. But like I said, I think that's fake. And y'all see why. But again, Yahushua said, for nation shall rise against nation, kingdom against kingdom. There should be famines and pestilences. That's your flu season. Fungal infections. HIV outbreaks. Explosion and turbo cancers. You know, all that stuff. And whatever else might come up. Epidemics, pandemics, side effects to the hokey pokey. But those are the pestilences. Man, this what it's gonna do to our people. And it shall come to pass that in the land, saith the Lord, 2 parts therein shall be cut off and die. So 2/3 of all Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, which make up the 12 tribes, 2/3 of our people about to die for not seeking the Lord in time. It says, but the third shall be left therein. So 1/3 of us, we're going to be remaining to receive salvation. So yeah, 2/3 of our people about to die. Now, the 2/3 that are about to die, the Lord gave us a breakdown by number. And I'm going to show this in the book of Ezekiel, chapter 5, verse 12. 1/3 part of thee shall die with the pestilence, and with famine should they be consumed in the midst of the thee. The 2 silent killers. The Lord said 1/3 gonna die by the famine and the pestilence. 1/3 part shall fall by the sword round about thee, and I will scatter 1/3 part into all the winds, and I will draw out a sword after them. Easier read in the NLT. Ezekiel 5 and 12. 1/3 of your people will die in the city from disease and famine. So it may be the super fungus, maybe the super flu, it may be something else. Or it still may be side effects from the hokey pokey. But whatever else, whatever it is, 1/3 of the 2/3, because again, you remember the Lord did say 2/3 gonna be cut off and die. So if you take the 2/3 and divide it into 3 parts, bear with me. Yeah, if you take the 2/3 and divide it into 3 parts, 1/3 of them gonna die by disease and famine. 1/3 of them will be slaughtered by the enemy outside the walls. Now we'll scatter 1/3 part into the winds, chasing them with the sword. So yeah, tens of millions to hundreds of millions, tens of millions of Israelites gonna die from the disease and famine, from the pestilence. Now this is just dealing with the nation of Israel. So how many more people gonna die from the disease and pestilence here in the last days? So you can, speculate tens of millions to hundreds of millions of people worldwide. And you can't forget that these devils got a depopulation agenda. That they boast in how they gonna reduce the world's population. So with that information, you can only assume that these super bugs and super funguses and super flus that's coming was engineered by Esau Edom, the so-called white man. But yeah, that was pretty much the lesson. There's a super fungus and super flu on the loose, and it lines up a prophecy, and there's gonna be more pestilence of disease coming, and do updates when they arise. But eventually something is gonna come that's gonna be so bad, it's gonna reduce the population of the earth. So it's gonna be something that's really deadly, really infectious, with a high kill rate coming pretty soon. And then whenever pestilence do come out here and start decreasing the population, it's all about fear and control. They're gonna use that pandemic to scare people into getting the RFID microchip, which is the mark of the beast, to fulfill Revelation chapter 13, verses 16 through 17. So why the super bug? Why the super flu? Why all this nonsense? Ultimately, it's for the microchip, the mark of the beast. So Lord willing, that was informative, edifying. Till next time, Shalom.